So I think all of us have been struggling in one way or another. It's been hard to watch people suffer, losing jobs, wondering what chaos will happen on any given morning. And we have to ask ourselves, in whom shall we trust? And when I was a little girl, my best friend was Jesus. And I would, pray to Jesus, pray to God. And for many places of faith, places of gathering, yoga classes, UU congregations, those sort of things can offer something to trust in. And as we heard from Sarah and others, this place is hopefully a place that you can trust in, whether you believe in God or not, or whether you believe whatever you believe in, that you can find a place that will hold you in hard times. In whom shall we trust? In the midst of something that we've never seen before, our democratic structures are under threat. Our nation is topsy-turvy. And I don't need to repeat all the headlines and traumatize you over again, because you know the headlines and you know the worries. And I think what's important is we think about what is it that we can do. And when I first came to town here in Eau Claire in 2010, there was an organization that I became aware of called Joining Our Neighbors, Advancing Hope, and it's called Jonah. And it was is now made of about 17 congregations, including the Buddhist Sangha. It's got participation from the mosque and from Temple Shalom. And it is a way to organize power. And when you talk about power in church, that can be kind of scary, because some of us have experienced power over or power abuse. But when you think about collective power or pride or empowerment, knowing that we ourselves have a voice. Last week we got a chance to experience our children having a voice. And I was thinking about, where do we find power in this community, and whom shall we trust? Well, I have come back from my sabbatical in November, and since then I've been reacquainting myself with Jonah, because I feel a powerful pull to get together with my colleagues and find out what are we going to be ready to do? What sort of statements can we make? What sort of action can we make to help protect people, to help empower people, to help hear our voices and get our elected officials to hear our voices? And so please don't be afraid of your power. When you think about in whom shall we trust, think about yourself. The things that you can do. I saw recently that someone talked to a neighbor who believed very differently from them, who had different signs during the political campaign from them. And it was agonizing and hard, but they loved their neighbor, right? And they knew that there were things that they had in common. They had children, and they believed in schools, and even in the environment. And so finding those points to try and have conversations, if you feel safe, if you feel empowered to do that, can be a spiritual practice, can be a leap of faith. In whom shall we trust? I have to say, Eau Claire is an amazing place. We have people in our congregation running for office. We have people on our city council and our city staff that listen when we went up there the other day to talk about our parking concerns. We have democratic processes that are working locally. And we're trying to show up for candidates who will help that, right? And so we think about, go out and vote on April 1st. Use your rights. When there is something that you care about, if you feel empowered, trust yourself to try and speak up about it. Some of us are not necessarily going to stand up from a podium and go, blah, blah, blah. But, you might be able to have a conversation in an elevator or a conversation with a friend and try and open some minds. One of the allies that I didn't expect for my 2 queer children is my sister. She, more than anyone, has in my family, has honored their pronouns, has asked them how they are doing, and it's. I had expected some different family members to have an easier time. So when we think about in whom shall we trust, sometimes we find unexpected allies. UA President Reverend Dr. Sophia Batencourt said, "Faithful dissent is our theological inheritance. Today's Unitarian Universalism emerged from a heritage of dissenting churches that is hundreds of years old, and we continue that tradition." And when we think about how exhausting and unprecedented these times are, there are times that have happened before this time when we have been worried, when we have struggled. And so if we can draw on the past, draw on our hope for the future, when we think about that everybody is redeemable, worthy, and loved, how powerful a message is that? That is power, because you're telling people that they don't have to listen to theological abuse. They can go to a congregation that affirms that they are beautiful and, born right the first time. I love that phrase. I just want to put it everywhere. Born right the first time. You don't have to go through some theological dance to be okay. You don't have to profess here that you believe in XYZ. Like Sarah said, you can sit in whatever pew you want, right? So if you sit up front, I'm going to be really surprised. We normally don't have people that sit right up front. Sometimes. Oh, hey. Hey, sorry. Wow. And trusting that there are places and people that can hold you. And to do that, to be vulnerable is hard, right? When people come up here and share a joy or concern, for some it's very easy, and for others they might hold the podium to hold themselves up and to speak aloud our concerns. So when we think about our heritage, Unitarians and Universalists struggled with the constraints of Orthodox roots, thinking about, reason and tolerance and freedom, and, who had the right to determine what is true. Well, right now, our government is trying to erase what is true, right? They're erasing things from our websites. They're changing the Stonewall Monument to exclude transgender people, which is a freaking crime. And all of this stuff it's our duty to say, wait a minute, I notice these things. And when I say our duty, we don't have to do everything. But when we see something, feel empowered to say something and to speak out, like, is this true? Is this right? Is this within our democratic process? And Unitarian Universalism, we believe in democracy. I was voted on to be the minister here. We vote on things every year, our budget, our board. We believe in the democratic process and that each person's voice is important. And our society does too, deeply. And so if we can help people have a voice, if we can help people feel empowered or even safe for this 1 hour on a Sunday, come whoever you are into this place and feel safe and heard and loved, then we can go back out and try again. It's hard. It's hard. My Twin Cities colleague, Oscar Sinclair, wrote about hope and trust. He said, "My apartment looks out over the Mississippi River, where I watch barges travel back and forth each morning. But on nights when I wake up after midnight, scared and uncertain about the months and years ahead and what they will hold, I find myself drifting and thinking of the river barges backed from my adopted home of Baltimore, of oceans and sailing ships. Usually I think of anchors as something to keep us in place, to hold us steady when the world moves around us. But there's at least one other use of an anchor. Imagine an old sailing ship on a big 150-foot schooner. There aren't any motors or oars on the boat itself. The ship is designed to work with the wind, and when you're out in the open sea with the wind at your back, it cuts through the waves fast and straight. But how does that ship get out of port? What do you do when the wind isn't at your back but coming straight at your face? Maybe you're stuck. No wind to be had at all. There's at least one other way to use an anchor. It's called warping. The crew of the becalmed ship would take a kedge anchor and put it on a rowboat. A crew rowed it out as far as they could out in front of the ship and dropped the anchor. The crew aboard the ship hauled on the anchor, not bringing it up, but bringing the ship slowly over the top of the anchor. Then they pulled the anchor up and put it back on the rowboat and repeated the process. It's not fast. It takes an enormous amount of work from many people working together. But in this way, even the largest sailing ship can move forward without any wind. I think of an anchor as a kind of motivation when the wind is against us. Hope doesn't require that the wind will be at our backs. It's not moored in a certain understanding of the experienced world. Hope is challenging, if not impossible to grasp alone. Hope in this sense is a discipline to anchor myself to something that I can't quite grasp yet, but I trust is there. And there's a discipline to pull towards that goal one day at a time. When I was thinking about what to say and I found this reading, it really hit me. The idea of dropping an anchor and pulling and just thinking of the ways in which we can work together, because we are not alone in this. And I think that is often a tactic when people are trying to disempower people. They want you to feel alone, afraid, and disempowered. Well, guess what? We are not alone. We have power, and we're going to speak up. And we are not going to go quietly in the face of Christian nationalism, in the face of fascism, and we're not going to abandon our neighbors. We're not going to abandon our loved ones. We're not going to abandon our LGBTQ plus people. We're not going to abandon refugees. We're going to include everyone that we can at our table. And we need that anchor, that lift, that wind at our back. Let us be your wind. Let your relationships here or in Jonah or in other justice activities or your yoga class, whatever it is that can help your heart forget for a while. Someone said something about the symphony and decadent cabaret. There is joy. Joy is resistance. And going to the fireball with the the LeMay Mackeys. It was wonderful. It was wonderful, queer joy. Next Sunday is an opportunity. We're going to have a big democracy bus coming here. It's big. It's like really big. If you look in your order of service, we're going to be hosting a Building Unity event, and literally it's a bus. It came a few years ago during the pandemic and had an event. And it's talking about the power of women on the day after International Day of Women. And we're going to have speakers talking about empowerment and justice. And we're also going to have a potluck. There'll be letter writing, information sharing. Don, can you raise your hand? Please see Don if you want more information. But I know I'm bringing some cornbread. So if you want to sign up for soup or whatever, we're going to have a stone soup potluck. If you don't know what that is, there's a legend that we sometimes reenact on Thanksgiving service, and everybody brings a little bit of something from their larder and makes a soup out of whatever. So this is empowerment, coming together, feeding each other, listening, looking at a democracy bus and seeing what they're doing in the world. You're not alone. And I have to keep saying that to myself when I wake up. Last night, I woke up in a panic, I'll be honest. And I couldn't get back to sleep for a while. And I kept thinking, what's going to be next? What's next? And then I think about all the good-hearted people and all the people that are working to counter what is going on. And then my heart stops racing. And then I think about the people I love and those who will speak up for them and hug them and vote for them. My heart calms down a little bit. And then I think about the fact that I get to come here tomorrow and talk to all of you in this place of love and trust, and that we are working to become better people, because that's what you do. You don't yell at your Ukrainian world leader. You don't take away people's power. You don't fire people who are doing good work and treat them like dirt. You do good things. You live good lives, and you live it with love. So in whom shall we trust? We trust this. We trust love. We trust power. It's not always a bad thing. Thank you.